Okay folks, welcome, good to see you. Flying Doctor here, and a fresh tutorial, a deep dive into the tablet for the H145 helicopter produced by Hype Performance Group. Now, I've referred to the tablet many a time in the series of tutorials that we've looked at, but I don't actually think I've done a deep dive. But I'm going to talk in particular at the end on EFB Connect, which I never connected with, on the event tester, which is, well, I just heard back from the guys on Discord and I've got some really helpful feedback on what that's about. Despite it was what it was initially designed for, which was to test the key bindings, it's a way of controlling many a button in or switch in the aircraft just simply from the tablet. So for me, it's turned out to be a really interesting addition. So that's the event tester we'll look at later. So scroll through. I shall say a word about the direction finder, but it seems to me that this will eventually become obsolete and implemented into the missions app. We'll also look at the missions app. I'm flying the firefighter variant. So anything I say here is linked to the firefighter variant. I hope it's translatable across. I'm going to begin by looking underneath the tablet itself. We're going to look at the Autopilot, which is a familiar place to begin. In a lot of the tutorials I'm referring to that. But we'll also look at the settings as well and the varieties that's available to us. Now, first and foremost, I constantly end up saying this, don't I? If you're looking for the tablet and you can't find it, and you haven't read the manual, well, that's forgivable, isn't it? We all learn in different ways. You click on the lift and pull bar here and your tablet will come up. Now, your version of the tablet will be different to mine, or at least the wallpaper will be. And one of the things about the tablet, if you look to the manual, is that it is configurable with your own wallpaper. So yes, we've got the Flying Doctor wallpaper here with us today. So I'm going to work through this step by step. Firstly, we're going to click on, I want to refer you to two buttons here. One is the home button and the other is the setting button. We'll also talk about the top button here at the top of the tablet as we work through. So these are the three areas that we're going to be looking at if you're just struggling to follow me. Okay, so let's just click the home button first. And one of the ways of doing that, you can either click on the home button here or you can click on the top and it'll toggle through to this screen that's in front of you here. Now, I've usually just referred to this straight away. If you want to get to the Autopilot and you want to be able to hover, when you lift the aircraft off the ground, you'll find that these options in the Autopilot light up. GTCH is what you want. You'll have seen me do it before. Click on that and it will give you some stability. It won't control the altitude, but it will stop the yaw straight away. Okay, so there's I've covered already in some detail the collective and the cyclic beep trim and how those use. So we're not going to cover that in this tutorial. But also it's one way of operating the doors. So we can open and close the cockpit doors, the middle doors, the cargo doors. Also, the Bambi bucket is automatically installed in the aircraft here. And when it's filled with water, this button will go white and you have an opportunity to dump it by pressing that button should you wish. But so as not to disappoint you, I will raise the aircraft off the ground. There we go. And I will press GTCH because it just doesn't feel like home unless I do. Okay, now where we're at the moment, just out of interest, is Aberdeen Airport. And I'll just put that on hold now. So we're holding our altitude at Aberdeen Airport. And yes, we can just have a little look around. Why not? But for the moment, we'll stick, shall we, with the tablet. There we go. So never mind the Autopilot. We can look at that later. We'll just hold there for the moment. Lights. Now this is important. I'll cover this. So you've got your collision light, your position light, your strobe light, your landing light. SL is your searchlight. And HISL is the high intensity searchlight. So let's just go and make sure that we drop down so that we can't actually see much around us. Got some darkness for the lights to show, and we'll just have a look and see what these amount to. So we're going to start with the anti-collision light that you can see here. We're just going to move external, There we go. There's our external camera, and there's our anti-collision light flashing quite nicely in the background there. Okay, back we go, and we'll add these nice and quick. Okay, position light. Let's add that one and have a look. There we go. If you notice that we've got the white light, which is indicating the rear of the aircraft, if you ever see that. And if we turn around and look up, we'll have our port and our starboard lights as well. Notice how the lights show, but only show at particular angles. So if you're only seeing a red light coming at you or a green light coming at you, you can tell roughly which way the aircraft coming at you is facing. If you see, let's just try and do this. If you see red and a green coming right at you and a flashing red at the top, that's time to worry. In nautical terms, if it's a 3 lights, and it'll be a white light at the top. In nautical terms, 3 lights ahead, starboard wheel and turn your red, which is, well, we're not at sea, we're in the air. But suffice to say, you can see, if you can see 3 lights coming towards you, that is bad news, because you've got something travelling directly facing you. You're on a collision course. I don't know if you knew that, but there you go. A bit of nautical nautical guidance for you. Let's just have a look at the strobe. So we'll click that, shall we? Let's just go to external again with the strobe, and you'll notice that we've got a white flash and a red flash, a white flash and red. So we've got a white strobe there. Okay. Landing light, let's just have a look at that. Told the external there, I'll just look underneath, and you can see there's a big white light there. So we've got a landing light coming down. Also, it will illuminate the area as we come to it. It's not particularly strong though, in my view. Searchlight. Here we are. Searchlight is down, and we've got some limited control to move up and move down. Now for this one, I'm just going to jump back. Okay, and we'll have a look firstly at the searchlight underneath and see what's happening there and whether it's actually on. There we are. Yes, you can see that we've got the landing light and we've got a big searchlight here, and obviously it's not showing particularly. It depends how high we are. How high are we? About 500 feet. So back in we go, and the high intensity searchlight. There we are. Now that's making a difference, because you can see straight away down there that you've got your high intensity searchlight, and we can arrow move it to the right, up, down, left. We can give it a narrow beam as it's got, or a wider beam there. And we can have it dim, we can have it maximum, we can have it off, we can have it red, we can have it amber, and we can have it infrared, or we can stow it as well. But we won't do that for the moment. That's no fun at all. Let's have amber. Really good for playing around with. It's extremely bright, and I think that pilots. I had a look at 1 or 2 HEMS and rescue helicopter videos, and I think there were limits at where the pilots were prepared to actually use it, because it's so intense. It's capable of heating up the foliage underneath. High intensity searchlight. So that's it. We covered the doors. We covered the autopilot. I mean, I can open the doors. Let's just for fun, we can open the doors whilst we are in the air. Let's just change the time of day, because I do believe that the doors will be open. At least there's another way around of opening the doors. So let's okay, let's have a look. We'll drop back, and there's our doors. Our doors are open. So yeah, we'll close the doors, shall we? So that's one form of setting. Let's just go back to the tablet there. Okay, so remember, just to toggle all of that, you can click on the bottom, or you can click on the bottom here, the home button here, or you can click on the top bar. Let's have a look at the aircraft settings then. It's the second thing we're going to do. Now, as I said, we're in the firefighter variant. If you've not found it, another way of opening your doors, top bar here, crew and payload, equipment options and setup. You may as well go left to right. So another way of opening the doors, and I can do this mid-flight, is to click these blue. And then with a bit of luck, if I look back, we should be able to see the doors open. And I'll just change the time of day again, so we got a chance of actually seeing that happening. And we'll just look outside once. There we are. Side doors are open, and I can't resist just having a good look around there. There we are. There's up. That's the high intensity searchlight there, and this is the winch at the top here. Let's do the rear doors just for fun, and the main pilot doors. Why not? Just because we can. There you go. All the doors are open, which is somewhat in breach of guidelines, shall we say. But nonetheless, you get a good look at the aircraft itself. Superbly modelled there. Okay, as California visits Scotland. So let's jump back into the cockpit again, sort ourselves out. You can see inside the cockpit we can also change things if that's what lights your world. We can change the amount of water we have on board, and just like any other of the variants, we can have an internal look round. So we can take a view of the rear here, as you can see. We can also have the pilot looking back here, and then if we move back into that normal position here, and if I click on, say, removing those waters, removing that fire hydrant, putting a couple of people in the back and removing one there, and put myself in, there we go. If we go to view from rear, then we'll see the changes there. So there's nobody there, but oh, hello mate, how you? Okay, he doesn't look too good, does he? Really? Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it does look like a bit. We shouldn't. Yeah. Okay, he's not looking too good. So yeah, we're just able to make things a little bit more realistic for us, and find our way around. So there we go. Yes, back to the tablet. Equipment. Now this is really helpful. Okay, and it's interesting as you play about the sim, you learn more about the aircraft, particularly the acronyms that are used. Which will throw you slightly. So the main thing is that you're able to add, it's not the dark grey, the dark greyed out, oh wait and be surprised. If it's light grey, you can switch things around. So the radome, with all the radar jiggery pokery, you can change that. You can customise your aircraft as to the resources it has on board. So if we go into the external camera, let's just have a look at the front that we have at the moment. If I go back into the tablet, and we can give it, well, the unsophisticated way of putting it is that we can give it a big nose. But yeah, it does have a big nose. There you go. We're going to go in a little bit closer because I've one or two things to show you anyway. So yeah, we can change that element. Let's just jump back in again to the cockpit. We can give it a slightly smaller nose. There we are. For those who are aviation buffs, they will know exactly what this is all about, but this is just giving us a great deal of customizability, playability, if you like. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's the smaller nose here. We'll have a look here and just toggle that. So you can see the difference there. Okay, this is really interesting, and I learned quite a lot from this. The safety patches are for when the aircraft is on the ground. They would usually be holding the aircraft down. This made me look some stuff up on the internet. WSPS, Wire Strike Protection System. Okay, now you tend to find these spiky bits, and that's what they are. Not on civilian aircraft, but on HEMS and on firefighting aircraft. And what they'll do, as per the name, is that they protect the helicopter as best you can against wire strikes. And what they are, in fact, is that there's a combination of two things. A guiding mechanism that if the aircraft comes into contact with a wire, I think they're intended to be able to cut wires of up to tensile steel up to 3/8 of an inch thick. Okay, the wire is guided up and into a set of cutters, and that's essentially what you have here. So if we look externally, and I'll just try and go in closer here, perhaps the bottom one is the easier one. There we are, lovely. You know, look at the detail in this modelled for us here. You can see, I mean, wire strikes are not recommended, but effectively the hope is that the wire is guided into the cutting mechanism here. Perhaps a bit easier to see on the top. Yeah, there you go. On the top here, you get the strike of the wire. Hopefully it's brought up the screen here, up the guard, and then into here. So yeah, as I say, not to be recommended as a pastime flying into wires, but it does happen, and so you see that level of protection. And you're able to customize exactly what you want. There's also a wire strike protection that can go onto the lower skis, you can see here, and you've got the hoist here. I showed you the hoist before, but I'll just show you it again, and then we'll remove it. So the hoist on this side, some detail there, some really amazing detail there. So we take that off just by clicking it, and back we go, and it's disappeared for us. But I like all my stuff there. And then you've got an external hook at the bottom here. Let's take that off and then have a look at the difference. Okay, and we'll move to the external camera at the bottom. Come out a little bit. So that's without, isn't it? That's without. And let's pop it on and see what that looks like. External hook. There it is. So it's right there underneath. Okay, and back to the cockpit. We've got the option of having the Bambi bucket or not having the Bambi bucket. This, I think, is without the Bambi bucket. Shall we have a look and just see what's what? It might have automatically put it on. I don't know. Let's have a look. Yeah, we've got no Bambi bucket there. There's no bucket below us. Is it called a Bambi bucket to rescue Bambi? I'm not really sure. Oh dear, it's late in the day. Okay, so I'm just going to toggle again back to the cockpit, and we'll click on the Bambi bucket, and we should see it appear below us. There we are. There we are. Back we go. A bucket below us. What happens is that you navigate the aircraft to pick up water, which can be from a variety of places, and you then have an option to empty the bucket, and I'll show you Scenario Editor later because you can actually set up your own missions. I'm actually going to set fire to the airfield later. Okay, let's just move back to the cockpit cam again. The skid options, as you can see, you can customize the high intensity searchlight, the types of skids that you have, short skid, long skid, a snow ski, and a settling preventer, which prevents the skis from sinking into the ground. So a whole combination there that you might want to put on yourself. But we'll take them all off. We'll just stick with the short skid and have a look at that. So there we are. There's just our regular short skid there. And then we'll go back in and let's add the high intensity camera. That's a big kind of unit at the front there. Our camera. And we can add the long skid. We can add our snow ski. We can add our settling preventer and our wire strike. Let's go in for the whole shebang. There we go. And so yeah, you're able to see the kind of variety we can get in, which I kind of, I do kind of like that. We're all about realism, aren't we? And I think this really gives us a combination and a customizability that makes the flight simulation even more enjoyable in my view. Let's just go back to the tablet again and we'll work our way through the options. There we are. So first and foremost, you've got option of the GTN 750 software. Effectively, you can use the GTN 750 and I would encourage you to do that. I have a paid subscription to PMS 50. It's well worth it if you're able to afford that. But also there's another option, which I click underneath, is the TDS Sim GTN XI. Okay, it's another option. I've not experimented with that, but of course the GTN 750, it would usually be operable here. That's not quite come on. Not quite sure why. We'll figure that one out later. Oh, that's initializing. There you go. Oh, I know what it is. It's because I clicked on one and then it obviously it doesn't have that other model of software there, and so now it's just opened up for me the GTN 750. So yes, you can just decide there is some customizability there from what you might want to do. Fabric glare shields installed or not installed, just down here along this line they're installed. This is preventing light from the ground bouncing up into your face and making it different. So you can install them or you can remove them. There we are, not installed. And likewise with the sun visors, you can install them or you can push them back. If we just jump back here, you do have to look quite high up for the sun visors. You're thinking, where are they? They would usually be there, wouldn't they? Well, let's have a look. Let's install them and see where they are. Okay, they're just above our heads here. So different times actually you will get a benefit from having the sun visors installed and the fabric glare shields installed. Let's just move down once more. So this is really helpful, especially if you're confused like me, because you're British European and we use a whole mix of things. And is it kilo or pounds or whatever? You can have your fuel in whatever units you want, counts, kilos, litres, gallons. Weight is much the same, so you can just a little bit more familiar for you. And you have your barometric pressure in pascals or in inches of mercury. Temperature can be Celsius or Fahrenheit. Most of us here kind of understand Celsius just naturally, but we do operate in the UK here with a curious mix of the two. Okay, there's a really interesting addition here: rotor downwash effects and rotor blur cast shadow. Now, of course, you can get better performance by playing about in the Microsoft Flight Simulator settings, but this is allowing you to make changes and to remove certain effects that may be costly on your system. So you can remove the shadows from the rotor blur and you can remove the downwash effects from the rotor. But for me, it doesn't seem to cause a problem. Helpful or not, you can have the parking brake. Oh look, we've still got the brake on. The parking brake can be shown on the tablet, and this is a nice kind of touch. You can have the clock here can be the tablet clock or the real time. Okay, so on the tablet this is 7:35. This is the time that I am actually flying at, that's been programmed into the sim, but the real time is 6:45 p.m. Okay, the next one down below is fairly obvious, I would think. Pilot and co-pilot models. You can either have the hype models. There we are, this nice gentleman here who keeps looking and nodding in my direction as if I'm getting everything right, or you can have the Asobo model. Now you notice with the Asobo model, instantly I'm looking through my microphone, so to speak, and that's because of where I have positioned my camera. So at least tells me my head's in the right position naturally, but yeah, you can have Asobo. It has its limitations, Asobo. I prefer hype. And also you can show the pilot in external views or not. You saw the pilot in external views earlier. You can just click that button, they won't appear. Now the AFCS ATT mode follow-up trim, I would just say have that as always. That is simply, looks to me like an autopilot setting you do not want to mess with. Fuel sensor can be installed. Inlet barrier filter can be installed. Anti-collision can be installed. We're going to put that in. Why not? And terrain awareness can be installed as well. And the IBF clog percentage down here, I think it's giving an indication of how the helicopter's performance is going to vary between service, because it's a filter that we're saying is clogged. So presumably the filters need replacing just a little bit. So yes, just finally on this, the setup, which is, well, you could have worked from right to left really, but if you weren't aware of this, you can have the H145 set up in a realistic mode, which is to be preferred really if you are using a joystick, for example, with programmable buttons. But there is a much simpler gameplay mode called an arcade mode, which is designed presumably for gamepad. But yeah, those are two options there. And you're able to vary the sensitivity of your cyclic and the dead zone, and also the pedals as well, as things work out for you. You've also got 3 buttons down the bottom here, of course: cold and dark, or ready for takeoff. Well, it's not a button, the middle one, it's just saying what state you're in. Cold and dark is helpful because you may well have positioned the aircraft somewhere where Microsoft Flight Simulator hasn't assumed that it wants you to have started it, and yet you don't want to go through the rigmarole of having to start things manually, in which case if you press ready for takeoff, it will automatically move the helicopter into being ready for takeoff. And likewise, sometimes it's good to land somewhere and shut things down, and you can click on cold and dark and it will do that for you automatically. So yes, that is effectively what is behind the home screen, and in the next part we're going to look at what these various apps do. And as I said earlier, I'm going to bring you some fresh information from me and what I've learned about EFB Connect, what I've learned about Direction Finder, about the missions, and about the event tester. And the ones that's new, very new, is the event tester, and I'm quite encouraged by that. So yes. So let's work through these icons one by one. I do have some handy hints for you. The first one is Metar. Now, I hope you're aware about Metar data. It's an abbreviated weather report that you can get from anywhere. Here we're able to put in our location and we can find the weather conditions. So we are at Aberdeen, which is EGPD. If I type this in, EGPD, press look up, and I'll get a Metar report. Now, I'll try and rehearse this, but the best thing, if you're looking for some guidance, there's plenty of guidance from the UK Met Office, but on how to interpret these. I find them fascinating, really. So EGPD on the left is the name of the airport that we're at. 0818, 08 is the day of the month. 1820 is the time. That's the time that report was given. Zulu time is universal time. Auto is saying that it's an automatically generated wind direction, which is 100 degrees. Okay, and 05 is the wind speed knots, so 100, 05 knots. Okay, you've got the next is the data that's available on the visibility, 8,000 meters. So 8 kilometers, in other words, we can see into the distance here. It doesn't give you anything further than 10 kilometers. If you get to 9999, the Metar report won't show any further than that for aircraft, I believe. And then the next codes are which is rain. It's overcast up to a ceiling of 1,300 feet. OVC, overcast, 013, so 1,300 feet. 1108, so 11 is the external temperature, 08 is the dew point, Q 1004 is the barometric pressure, and then we've got this additional note, temporarily, tempo broken at 900 feet. So in other words, we've got completely overcast at 1,300 feet, but if you're going through 900 feet, just understand that you're going to hit sort of some broken cloud. So yes, in other words, conditions look like they're worsening. So if we get higher than this, we should expect to be completely overcast. It was broken cloud before at 1820, but now things are obviously slightly later. So yeah, there we go. There we are. Okay, and back onto the tablet once more. Web is interesting, just opens up Flight Tracker for you. If I wait long enough, that will appear. I don't particularly use Flight Tracker. We need to select that. Sorry, that would be helpful. So you need to click on it and select it. Showing aircraft around you, and it's possible to follow an aircraft and select an aircraft to be following. So yeah, Flight Tracker. Let's just move things back. EFB Connect is really interesting. I thought I would show you this. So EFB Connect is it's not received too much attention since the earlier. Now you're going to have to download the H145, the non-action pack, and if you do that, you'll find, and I've got one for you here, prepared earlier. If you do that, you'll find that you get to this page. Okay, so if you go to the download center and you go back to early enough, the base pack originally has two things. It has a base pack build and it has EFB Connect, and that's what you need to download. You need to install it and you set that running. And what EFB Connect will let you do, it'll open up a window on your desktop. Here's my window here. There is some functionality there. Then you can call up websites, but not every website. I happen to have called up YouTube here. And then what's displaying on this screen will display on EFB Connect when you load that up. So if I go back into the main sim here and I click EFB Connect, it's quite nifty really, you'll find there we go. And so it's possible to navigate via both. On the screen here, isn't that cool, is displaying what's on my PC here. So if I press play here, you're going to see just an example of a helicopter strike that I just put in earlier. So there it is. I think we're seeing a bit of, mixed lag, whatever, but you can't quite see the rotors, but there we are. There's a helicopter strike. There we are, from a website, but I'm quite able to go back, and there you are. You can see that I was looking there, and within reason, you're able to enter websites in, and we can go to the Flying Doctor channel. Why not? And there you go. There we are. And you can see that's what I was looking at. So it does give, it's quite interesting, quite cool, very geeky, but we're into geek, aren't we? I'm not sure how that's going to remain within the sim, but an interesting feature nonetheless. Yeah, EFB Connect, just in case nobody got seen how that works. Maps is pretty obvious, isn't it? Just click on the Maps button, and I do like this. I do find that there's a bit more clarity with this particular map. I can click there and change it to north up, and there we go. Or I can change it and have it to aircraft or heading up. And there's lots of options on here that I'm used that I've not explored anymore, but I'm wondering whether I'm able to get, for example, a railway overlay might be helpful. I wonder what that will do. And also I'm wondering, let's have a look, lots of options. A weather overlay, I'm wondering what that would look like. So I have not really kind of played about with this a huge amount, have to be honest, but definitely got some functionality in there. So I've just really appreciated the street names. Being able to see the street names clear is excellent, but the railways are an interesting addition, that they come up orange, because that's one of the ways that you might try and find a route, follow a route. So yeah. Okay, let's just go back then. Documents is straightforward, and in the user menu you can see how you can add documents. But if I want to watch the user guide online, if I click there, now you can't move forward and backwards as if you were leafing through a booklet, but you can click on the page, and then if you click back it will go back, and then I want page 6 for example. So it gives you some functionality. It's not great, but again, if you're sort of screen space, it's a good place to start. It gives you a more streamlined experience if all the information you're looking at is in the aircraft, of course. And there's the startup, the normal procedures there. So we've looked at aircraft and seen what that does. If you do want to play Flappy Bird, you can. I think it's there because it can be there. I've never really worked out how to play Flappy Bird. Little Navmap. So there's us on little Navmap here. Okay, and it's possible for me to find that and use that in the tablet. So I'm going to switch something off and then switch it back on again, just to illustrate. So move back to the main sim. I found that this looks a bit clunky, but it does give you all the information that's on your Navmap screen, including your waymarked route. But there's a little change that you need to make in order to achieve this, and that is that you need to go into your Navmap, into tools, and you go into run server. So I'm going to jump back there with you just to show it to you and how it works. So there we go, there's our Navmap. Up to tools, up to run web server. I can zoom out in the sim, but you can see I'd need to work a little bit. These are markers here that I've that are imported or their locations. It's a little bit clunky. Personally, I prefer to have the Navmap in a separate window, but if you want to use the tablet, you can. Navigraph. Now, once again, now I don't use Navigraph here. I use the Navigraph that's part of the GTN 750 screens, but it is possible to connect with a paid-for Navigraph account, and that will come up on the tablet here. I tend to use Navigraph as part of the GTN. Again, if I type in EGPD, I'll just demonstrate that I do get a lot more versatility out of this. Information about the airport. I can find information about approaches. I just need to select that. I want an ILS for runway 24. There you go. And it's nicely overlaid for me. Okay, alarms. This is really useful because if you want to limit your time on the sim and you're not sure what you're doing, you can put your time in and you can start the timer, and you're going to get shouted at, presumably. Oh, I don't know what happens when the timer finishes. You get some kind of warning up to say that your time is up, but you can also put an alarm on for a specific time. I find that's helpful when you're in the sim because you can just get lost, can't you, totally with where you are. Now, missions. I'm going to offer something a bit deeper on missions. If you click on missions, you can go to mission menu. I'm still working this out. That's a Thoradin mission pack, which is available on Flight Sim TO. You can import missions into a mission folder, and you can go and carry out those missions. I thought it would be helpful to demonstrate something of the file structure within the H145 action pack that needs to be in place for the missions to show up on the tablet. I spent quite a lot of time going round in circles on this, and in the end arrived back to where I started. It all seems to work. But firstly, what I do is I have my H145 base and my action pack in the same directory as Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Early on, I just discovered that I've got more stability that way, and I haven't changed it since then. So most of my other add-ons I use add-on linker, but for the Hype 145 I have everything in terms of the base and the action pack helicopter in the same directory as Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. It's not the case with the liveries, but with the aircraft, that's where it is. So my Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, I have a quick access via a packages shortcut which takes me to my Microsoft Flight Simulator community and official folder. You click on the community folder. Now I color organize my folders. There's various apps that can let you do that, but you can see in red here I've got two things. I've got the Airbus H145 and the H145 action pack. Now secondly, you can see all of these other folders are shortcuts. You can tell that by the little blue arrow next to them. I should also show you that Thoradon produced a mission pack, thanks to Thoradon, and he said quite rightly, and it has worked this way, that if you put this in the community folder, but I put it in the community folder in the drive where Microsoft Flight Simulator is installed, so not as a separate link, and then when you go to the action pack to update the missions and you click on a particular file called update mission index, which is obviously a batch file and a script, and what that will do is it will populate the demo missions and HEMS Anywhere combined, HEMS Walk Around. This is and it will also populate the Thoradon folder missions as well into your tablet, so that you can look them up and click on them. So I click on update mission index just to show you. There we are, and it's processed a lot of files here. You can see them labeled there, and then if I press enter to continue, then what I should find is that I will find the missions there. So I am now at the airport. I have settled. I've just opened up. Now this is the medical helicopter, not the firefighter variant. And if I click on the tablet and open that up and go to missions and click on mission menu, and I will click on refresh, worth doing that, then you can see that there are various missions that are populated here. So that's how you get them into the mission index in the first place. It's worth me just showing the simplest example of a quick walk around, and we'll click and see what happens, shall we? It's saying we're having a check on ground and a walk around's in progress. So if we look just around us, we should see, there we are. There we go, so going for a little bit of a walk. Okay. And here, you can take my word from it, he will have a little bit of a walk around the, and we'll just leave him there, shall we? No, we won't really leave him there. I'll put it back down on the ground again, just gently. There we are. Sorry about that, mate. In terms of flying, selecting a mission and flying, let's not forget that this is a beta product. Things are still being worked on, but this is showing great promise. I'm going to pick something fairly simple. So we're going to click with Rescue Anywhere, Hoist or Landing, then Hospital. So let's click on that and we'll just see what it says for us. It says fly to the accident scene. Crew is being hoisted down. Wait, crew operations are in progress. Hover, hoist the crew and patient, fly to hospital. So we've got some instructions. Now the thing that's worrying me slightly in this from experience is I want to know where that line is going. And I suspect it's heading off somewhere from the coast of Africa. So I'm really not sure about the map, how the map is working below, but I'm wondering if I'm able to circumvent some of this by, if sometimes you go into hover mode, this next step will happen. So let's just see what we can do playing with this. Let's fly away, shall we? The other thing is, if you are habitually like me, you tend to go into hover mode really quickly, GTCH rather than just GTC, you're going to be in difficulty, because it's, I assume it's going to want to take that as a signal that it's you're waiting to hoist up or lower per patient, for example. So let's have a look. So I'm just going to lift, and I'm going to go straight to GTC rather than GTHC. It's a break a habit of a lifetime. There we are. So we'll just see what impact that's had. It's had nothing. Okay, we're not going to fly to an accident scene. We're just going to pretend we've arrived. We'll take it off GTSC just for a minute. Put it on as if we were taxiing somewhere. And then we'll click on GTHC. We're going to hold the altitude. And then we're going to go back and see what happens. And it said set GTCH target. I think that's meaning get yourself in position. So I click that first and then switch to hoisting. Click switch to hoisting. Ah yes, we are being hoisted down even though we are nowhere near the coast of Africa. So yeah, we've got the crew being hoisted down. I think we wait patiently. Crew operations are in progress. Down on the ground. Yeah, there's a casualty there. On the ground. Now the question is how long it takes for us to get into this request to hoist up the crew and patient again. There has been a bit of a wait when I've done this before. Okay, it's saying hoist up the crew and patient. Is that automatically happening? It is automatically happening. There they come. Should we have a bit more light so we can see what's happening? Here we are. So there's our patient, kind of disappeared into the helicopter. Let's just jump back into the sim again. It's saying fly to the hospital. And then it says wait for crew to unload patient. I'm not sure whether it realises where a hospital is. So we'll lower things down to the ground and just see if it automatically recognises we've landed and therefore we need to unload. So we're still in hover mode. Just to be safe, we'll take it out of hover mode into, and we'll just push it forward a little bit. So we're in kind of taxi mode now. Trajectory controlled. Just move forward a little bit further, doesn't particularly matter. Into hover mode again. Just going to come off the altitude setting and just lower down, have a gentle landing, and we'll see, shall we, what impact that has. go. So I'm not quite sure we've arrived at the hospital. We'll see what happens now. And I wonder whether we'll have to perhaps move the flight into idle. That would be a bit sophisticated. So I'm not seeing any change there. Let's take the engine. Let's switch the engine to idle. See what happens. Whether that triggers anything. There we are. It did trigger something. Now we're in idle. It's wait for crew to unload patient. I don't mind saying I'm quite encouraged by that. I think, yes, do expect there are going to be some shortfalls with the app and various add-ons that are coming out, but that's just an example of one add-on. Gives us something to work on. I'm quite encouraged by that, but there were one or two things that I had to watch out for there. I was faithfully moving the aircraft, even though I was moving at a short distance, so that it looked to the sim like the aircraft was moving and was landing in a different place. I noticed that, yes, we went into hover mode and that sets things off. So if you fly in hover mode to start off with, that's not going to be good. You need to fly in taxi mode. And so you can't be lazy like me and just jump up and press the hover button all the time. And then finally, what was interesting is nothing happened in it until we moved the engine to idle from flight. And at that point, the app realised that yes, we were ready to unload. So I'm actually quite pleased with that, and I hope you find that helpful too. So just a hint, just an example of one mission that is possible. And the next thing that I'd like to do is to go into the firefighter variant and to look at the scenario editor, because that way we can create a fire somewhere and try and put it out. Firstly, when you download the H145 action pack, you'll now receive an option to download a scenario editor. It installs like any other program, and you sit it there on the sim, and if you just log into it, you'll find that you get a map. I've zoomed in. It works much like sort of a Google map. Just scroll around, zoom in, zoom out, and you get a map of the world, and you get an opportunity to create scenarios that require firefighting. The first thing you have to do is to connect the H145 scenario editor with the sim. Now the way that you do that is that when you're in this option here, in the mission index that you click under mission menu, go to connect to scenario editor. It's as simple as that. But if I go back to my map here, I can see that I've got connected aircraft, and we're down here, H145 firefighter version 283, and even got the livery that I'm using. Wow. And so what I can do here is I can create a scenario. Now I managed to do this like that. The other thing you'll see is that the aircraft appears. There's the helicopter there, so it's telling us we're in Aberdeen, and we can zoom right in here. This is particularly helpful. It's worth keeping an eye on a map if you've got a separate monitor, because it's going to come in really helpful in a while. The next thing you do is to click on edit, and what this does is it allows you to add objects with a click to the screen. If we click start adding objects there, if I click on the screen, I'm pretty sure that we'll find a fire that is laid down. There you go, click there. Right, I'm going to set fire to a field. I'm not going to do too much of this. I'm only going to do one example of this because I was useless at it earlier. Okay, but I can tell you exactly what we'll do. I can add a firefighting pool. That's interesting. Let's put one of those here. We'll put another one there. And we can also add a swimming pool. We'll have a swimming pool to the map here. So simple as that. So there's where we are. We've modernized the airfield here, and we click on apply changes. Okay. Now, here's what is going to happen when I move from the sim here and I zoom out. I should see a whole host of stuff happening. So let me go to the normal pilot screen, and there we are. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dearie me. Look, we've got fire to our right. So there's some resources to put the fire out, and there's our fire there, and there's a Bambi bucket. Shall we see what we can do? Now this could be a disaster, but I'm just going to show you how to put out one fire. Okay, that's what we'll go for. Go into the autopilot mode. I'm going to, it's probably close enough, it'll take some while and I'll have to be patient. I'm going to just yaw across here, and then I'm just going to lower down and get some water. It's sometimes helpful to have the external view to see what's happening and to see exactly where you are. Toggle forward here, and we'll see if we can just get this. That bucket looks awfully close to the ground, but we'll see if we can get just over here. Shall we? Let's just go to the left. There's some rubber rings in there. There you go. We nicked that from someone's garden. How cool! How kind of us. I'm just going to zig back into cockpit now, and that's interesting, isn't it? We're not that far off actually. Just I'm going to inch forward. You can see me doing this. Okay, inch forward. And toggle the external camera suit, because this is where you really see. So we're miles away actually, but we'll just inch forward again and just invade somebody's hot tub. Okay, we'll see if that will work, will it? Let's have a look. Oh, that's not too bad. Shimmy a little bit to the left. Right, okay, so it's automatically down. No, don't go too much to the left, mate. Don't go too much. Right, okay. We'll just hold that there, and we'll see what happens as we drop down. Let's try that. We need to just go back into the cockpit, and there's a hint when you're looking to find to equal the thrust that you're getting up, the lift that you're getting up. You've got this little white bar here. If you move the little white bar, can you see the double white lines? Move that to the yellow. If I press Alt, I don't get any, and take it off altitude hold, I don't get any surprises. See that? That's really clever, isn't it? So we'll just go down here and just see where this gets us. I'm just going to go into external view again. Whoa! Got some way to go. I do find it difficult to judge this. We'll move forward. No! If I can do this, anyone can do it, because I'm not particularly a gamey person. As you can see, that's why I've sailed right past that. It might come back though. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, okay, maybe not, maybe not, maybe not. It's quite forgiving. I think it might come up with water there. Oh yeah, we managed to, the less said about that the better. But so there we are. Now we have a shed load of water. A Bambi bucket full of water. I'm just going to turn myself around now. Just using the beep trims to do this. Now here is where experience has told me, and I don't have much experience, that it's really helpful to look at the map and where the helicopter is on the scenario editor, because you can, like you saw with me over the swimming pool, it can be quite difficult to see exactly where you are. Even with an overhead view, I still find it very difficult to sort of see exactly where I am. So what I need to do is lower the altitude a little bit. Apparently we're at 700 feet, so we'll lower it to about 300 feet. We don't want to singe the helicopter. So we're at 300 feet now. And what I'm going to do is, obviously, I'm going to wander the helicopter across. Got my lights still on. Okay, and what you're going to see now is I'm going to switch across, and you'll see how the helicopter is moving. You can see it here moving on the screen to the fire. Okay, so we're going to move forward again. And the trick is to make sure we're right over the fire, obviously, before we drop the water. Okay, let's move on just a little bit. Oh, no, we've gone too far. Back. I move till I'm right above the fire itself on by the map. Okay, so back to the sim again. Okay, I'm going to dump the bucket. So the way in which I got to the screen was if I click on Autopilot. I'm wanting to go up now. But if I click on the doors menu, it gives me the other options, and the lights menu gives me the other options. And it's not in the Autopilot menu, oddly enough. But if I click on door or lights, it gives me an opportunity to dump the bucket. So if I dump the bucket, there we go. Now I've actually put out the fire. If you don't believe me, there you are. I've managed to actually put out the fire. It's no longer there. Dump the bucket, and then the important thing is if I look to the screen here on the left, you'll see that we've got this. You can see the position of the helicopter. There we go, and you can see I've got a nice little tick. Well done. I've got it out of the way. That's about as far as you're going to get from me on that one, but I thought that might be just a helpful little display for you. So let's just have a look at the final feature that I think is a real addition and a game changer. In fact, I'd like to say a word of thanks to the guys at Discord, particularly I think it's Davo3 and also Andrew WWW, because I raised a question about Direction Finder that we haven't looked at. It seems to me that Direction Finder is going to become obsolete. But for example, so if you click on Direction Finder, you can find your way to, or the Direction Finder will link to these particular locations. You can edit the JSON file and put in new locations. But if you click on the Direction Finder and then you move the nav source, you can see ILS FMS Direction Finder, and then we've got the little Direction Finder area there. And we can also say how far it is away. Harbourview Medical is 3,648.6 miles away, so we won't be going there. And if I click on Overlay Medical, you can see there. So the Direction Finder was originally sort of used within GPS units that people used. You might be rescuing somebody who's carrying one, for example, a lost pilot. But I think, and what I'm hearing is that that's going to be absorbed into the missions in general. But this is something that I just wanted to share with you as a sort of special treat. So if you saw what I did there, that is simply there is a new little app called the Event Tester. Now, Davo3 tells me about how this is kind of originally featured. So it was an events test app, and it's new in the latest development build. It's not documented, it's too early for that. And what he's done is he's passed the H145 keys text file and giving us a button here to activate all of the events. And this way you can test. Originally it was to test the key binding. But I think this is brilliant, because by using this app, actually, you're effectively toggling on and off options for buttons in the aircraft. So if I move down to the tablet here, if I switch the battery off, the battery would switch off. I click on Autopilot. You can switch all of the Autopilot off here, and you can, toggle all the buttons here. I'd noticed that was happening, and I managed to I started the helicopter no problem by clicking on a limited number of overhead buttons here. So you've got overhead panel, I can turn off the generators, master battery, engine fire test. We can have that and a warning, I do believe. There we are. We can see the warning coming through there. Obviously the sound is muted here so that I'm able to give a tutorial, but you can see that there. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, so for example, let's have the windscreen wiper on. So if we click on that, that's off. We can have it on slow. There we are. Isn't that great? Slow, fast. And I realise that some of us might want to be playing about with the buttons overhead, and I can understand that. But this is just really helpful, really kind of indirectly helpful kind of addition, I feel. Internal panel lights off or on. Yeah, you can see those just coming on. Did you see that? Bottom left there, off and on. You can have a good, I'd just say have a good play about with this, but I think this is a little excellent kind of addition to the sim. I think we should keep this. Don't just keep it for testing. And so, yeah, you know, we can even operate the tablet from the tablet, which doesn't quite make sense. But what happens if I click Launch Documents? There you go, straight into the Documents part of the tablet. So yeah, really versatile. I really kind of enjoy that. I would suggest that we just need to have a community. We just need to have a little play about with that. But I think, yeah, excellent. And you've got all these kind of options. Pilot toggle. So there we are. Didn't want to see myself. I've just removed myself. So just a few little examples, but there's far more that you could do with that. So yeah, congrats once again to H145. Thanks to Dovo3 and to Andrew www. from the Discord. Great guys over at Discord. You can find anything out. Do join. Do make sure you take up that invitation. But yeah, thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the H145. Take care, folks. Stay safe.